Hi everyone, I'm Michael Bruce, CMO at Agent Moves, and welcome to our Good to Great series. We're all about sharing amazing stories of top realtors and how they got there so we can help make more realtors great. So let's jump in today with our guest, Gwinn Volen. Gwinn, welcome.
Hi, Michael.
Great to meet you. And I always love starting with something a little bit more personal, not real estate related, because this whole thing will be talking about, real estate. And so I asked Gwen a little bit about herself and kind of a cool, unique thing. She had her master's in library science and was a librarian for 20 years before getting into real estate, but not the traditional, like we would think, we at least know libraries. I know that some young people today, what they know about libraries, but tell us a little bit about Gwen, what how you use library science for really in the digital world.
Sure. So I like to tell people that I was a librarian because they're always baffled, particularly when they, see a real estate agent who's a salesperson out and about. So my career was a little bit more in the digital space. So I was with CNN for a long time working with their video archive. And then this will really date me, but I was with AOL, America Online, from 99 through 2003. They bought Netscape out in San
Yeah.
Francisco. And so I worked on their web search products. It was kind of back in the days where, directory structure was important for web search. And so they hired me for that. And I was in product management and did that for a long time. And then kind of continued on at CNN doing content organization and content discovery. So I
Wow.
think it helped me launch my real estate career, honestly. It gave me something that in our area people didn't have, which was a pretty good understanding of search engine optimization and how all of that works.
Right. Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah. I wasn't even getting ready for the connection, but understanding digital, especially from the early days. And my dad is still on AOL and 91 years old. I can't get him to move
Oh,
to
yeah.
Gmail, but hey, it's his thing. So it's still here. But from those early days, right, to be involved in digital and the connection to marketing in digital, right, how important it is today, more important than ever for agents. So, yeah, great connection there. How did you get started? So, how do you bridge from, although having that talent is great with what you're doing now, but how did it come about?
So I've been in the business about 10 years. And I was in between contracts. I was actually back with CNN, and my husband lost his job. So he was a executive for a company, and they got bought out, and they clean out management. We were about to build a house, and so he was going to buy a business that included property management. I said, well, I'll go get my real estate license and help. And ultimately that deal fell through, but then I decided to just go straight into sales, and I definitely had a bit of a fire burning under me to do well. And I think that really kicked it off. And I started out sort of modeling after an agent in Atlanta who had a magazine and built up a local brand for
Mhm.
herself and was kind of well known. I didn't want to spend that money, so I started a blog. So when I started, I had a blog with a brand, and then I also started branding myself, and then ultimately married those two things together in my current website, and it really kicked off.
Excellent. Yeah. 10 years ago, blogs, right, they were a thing, but knowing what's happening in real estate, we're behind in the digital space outside of social, right, which
Right.
wasn't as big 10 years ago. So that you had that to be able to put content out and know what it would do for you, I can see it being a fantastic beginning and giving you something a little bit different than, another agent in that market.
Yeah, I started doing Google ads, and then I was one of the early adopters in posting social and all that kind of good stuff. So
Yeah.
it helped. I think our area is a little, we're probably 10 years behind areas like New York City. So I was an early adopter, so was able to get high up in search.
Yeah, yeah, no, excellent. So tell us about the first year. You get involved, right? You have this digital presence. How did the first year work for you?
So I had five sales. My first sale was, kid you not, $50,000 condo from a Zillow lead. This was before Zillow leads were expensive. So I thought, okay, I'll
Okay.
buy Zillow leads. I'll spend $500 a month or something on that. Hired a coach, and so I went to a Walgreens and wrote the contract with the guy. And then I did four other low sales. I think my total sales volume was under 900,000, but it got me going. And again, I was building my reputation that very first year.
Yeah. No, this is important because although we're really talking to the Good to Great series is about, how do we help, agents that are already doing well, successful, what are some of the things that, kick it in and help you scale and, get to the greatness, whatever that means, whatever that is they want to be. But at the same time, it's the aspirational. There are newbies, watching these videos, right? So I loved your reaction to, everyone thinks you start, boom, I sold, 30 houses year one. No,
No,
it's
I didn't. And then luckily I found an agent in our office who'd been around for a while and she needed, you know, a partner, an assistant. And so we partnered up. And then I had content to advertise, to show off. And that actually just helped me bring in more business. So my second year, it was 8 million in sales and then graduated up. And now I have a team with a couple of support staff and a couple of agents. And we range from 80 to 110 million in sales volume
wow, just, absolutely
in
fantastic,
10 short
amazing.
years. Yeah.
Right, and just 10 short years, right,
Right.
exactly. Right. So stay with those first early years as you started having success, you maybe two, three, four. Give us something that I love talking about. I wouldn't do that again. Do you have one of those?
God, I'm sure that I do. Well, I would say that, and this doesn't really apply to marketing, but as they say, you don't know what you don't know. And now I think back to some of the mistakes I might have made or some of the train wrecks I just barely avoided. And really, it's only through experience that you get those things. From a marketing perspective, I can't think of any one thing, but really it was just going out there hot and wild, not really knowing how much trouble I could get into. And luckily, I avoided anything horrible.
Excellent. Yeah, that is it. It's not whether it's marketing, just business. Some will say I hired too quickly. I didn't go through a process to really know who I wanted to hire, or maybe hired the wrong whatever it was, right? But there was something that happened as they were kind of hitting that growth mode, right? Didn't need to be
Sure.
like a,
Well, and that did come, of course, after I was just with a partner for, I think, about 4 years, and then moved over to my current brokerage, Keller Williams. And at that point, I started growing a team and definitely learned through, you know, hiring people, not really defining what that's supposed to be, and I still go through quick growth periods and feel like I don't have the structure and the model quite right. And then it eventually evolves. But there have definitely been some choices that I've made that I do regret.
interesting, interesting. So tell me a little bit about your breakdown. So now here you are 10 years later.
Hmm.
Like you said, you're doing some great numbers. How does this break down for you? Like, and let's talk a little bit from the marketing side, like your sphere. Are you, is your business mainly coming from local events that you do, from your database, from other leads that you're getting?
Sure. So I'd say 75% of my personal business that I handle is Sphere and past clients. I think I hit it right at the age. I'm 55 now. I was, 45 when I got into the business. At that point, I knew a lot of people. I think I'm a naturally, probably not anymore, but at the time I was a naturally social person, involved in my community. And again, I think I built my reputation pretty quickly. So that's definitely a large chunk of our business. And then we get we still get a decent number of online leads through our website. Interestingly, lately it's been through ChatGPT and Perplexity AI. I recently got a $12.5 million listing from a gentleman that found me on Perplexity. And I think all of that work that I did over time definitely fed into that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I have to say, I've interviewed dozens of agents, and no one has talked about search. Google paid ads, maybe it worked for me, maybe it didn't at certain times. But as far as like organic search actually working for them, this is definitely search is my background, Gwen. I didn't tell you that
Oh, it
before we
is.
actually
Okay.
started. Yeah. So, totally really understand that, and I'm still involved in deeply involved. So yes, the work you did when other people weren't, and the content and the blogs, that's what Google
Correct.
loves, and especially with what's going on now with, you know, AI overviews and having that content. They don't care who you are, if you're the biggest or smallest. They just want to
I just want
serve
the
the best
content.
answer. They want the
Yeah, and I
content.
think so in our best search year, we had I think 22 million in sales from search leads. Again, organic search leads, not paid. Now it hovers more around 11. I would still count an AI lead as a search lead. So,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
if that
yeah.
big sale closes out, but yeah, that I think you're right. I think it would be hard to replicate what, through longevity, what I've built over time.
Yeah, yeah. And to have like 10% or so or more of your business come from organic is fabulous,
It's
right? Not
crazy.
paying for that anymore, right? You're just producing content that you need anyway. It's fabulous, right? And it's a
Right.
great strategy to do as much as you can, even in social, as much and organic, and then you start paying for
Sure.
things where you feel, it makes sense, right?
Well, and I
So
still do pay for someone to optimize my website. I still, have a monthly retainer for someone to beef up our content
right.
just because I know how important it is.
Yeah, yeah. Again, you're right. And that gives you like that leg up, which is fabulous. So, what do you do like in the community? Do you do events now that you've built up this customer database and sphere in the community? What else are you doing that's a little bit different?
So I usually do two events in the spring, and we didn't do it this year because we were too busy. But we call it a spring soiree, and we have a band, and it's that's more of a customer oriented party. I'll invite Sphere and friends as well, but it's a little bit more customer
Yeah,
centric. And then in the fall, we do an oyster roast, super casual, super fun though. And that really is more sphere based. It's just a big party. And so, invite whoever I feel like inviting. And then the two agents I have on my team, they invite people. And that's a great, time to, again, we're socializing, but
yeah.
they also know that it's us.
Right, right. No, that's fun. I love that. I hear so many different ones from different, agents are in different parts of their lifestyle, kids, no
Right.
kids, whatever. And the events then relate around those, which are
Sure.
fabulous. But just like you're doing, right? I love the focused on the customer event as one, because, that's what, you know, so few the events I think agents are doing. Successful agents are doing multiple
Sure.
events a year, but staying in touch with them is another. I did want to talk to you a little bit about the challenge of staying in touch with your sphere. Do you feel you have that running well? You're touching them through marketing. How does that work for you?
So, I think all of the relationships that we build with customers are pretty personal. We don't do a high volume of transactions, anywhere from 60 to 80 transactions. So we usually get to know the people pretty well. So it isn't a monumental task to stay in touch with them. I'm kind of a natural connector. And
Mhm.
so, oh, do you have a dog?
Yeah, yeah, I do. George,
Hey,
you'll meet
George.
George.
Yeah, hey, George. But so I don't know how to explain this, but I naturally think about people and check in on them. And I, of course, within my CRM, I have a rotation, but I've usually already done it.
Mm,
And then my team, honestly, is so good, my support staff, at following up with people and giving them that extra love, particularly those that I or might not directly in my circle. They're following up to make sure that things are good, or we send birthday cards, all of those slightly more personal things. A customer of ours lost her husband, sweet older lady, died of a brain tumor. Without me prompting it, Nancy on my team, took her dinner, and then we went to the funeral. I mean, only because it isn't a cheesy thing. We just like to do it. So I think part of my success is in liking people and wanting to connect with them and really getting pretty invested in my business and the sale.
yeah, yeah. No, love that. Look, there's nothing better than the personal touch. I mean, great to be staying in touch, digitally, of course, right? And
Sure.
that does help tremendously, especially with customers. And now you're doing this 10 years. So, they're going to be moving soon. The ones that you had year one, right? It's that 6 to 10 year mark. That 6.5%, I think, of agents' database is moving each year.
Right.
So, right, we know
And
how
so
important it is.
we do 12 times a year, obviously a newsletter, and then 4 times a year actually do a print. It's a one, two, four page. It's an attractive print piece. I'm
Oh,
pretty data driven, so I feel like that helps me, particularly with the high net worth customers. They really enjoy those. We'll get listings from some of my agents say, "Oh, we've been following what you guys have been doing." So, for people, I do try 4 times a year to make sure I stay in
excellent.
touch. Just via calendaring, the newsletter, and then print. But we haven't activated our database from a pure marketing standpoint, really in any other way. The only time we ever do that is if we're on just a drip campaign with someone we don't.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Okay. So now what's the goal? How are you looking at the first thing is I could imagine how I was thinking as you were talking before, your organizational skills as a librarian playing into how organized you really need to be when you're growing a business. Forget about what business you're in, but any business. So I'm sure that skill set has to play really well in follow up and your team.
Well, what's interesting is
Or do you drive them crazy?
I'm a very messy person. I mean, the ladies that work for me always laugh because I'll get food on my shirt. It's always a mystery, and yet I have my own system, but you would not necessarily, by looking at my desk or at my closet, believe that I had that organizational structure built in. But I do have really strong systems put in place. I'm a bit neurotic about how we communicate with people. I want people to have 5-star communication and 5-star service every time. So we've refined all of that to make sure that it's natural and, the way that we care and understand their situation carries through.
Yep. Okay, so talk to me about growth now. Let's end on a high note. What kind of growth, are you looking for this year? Whether it's, numbers, with units, and how are you going to get there? What are you going to do differently now? What's the plan?
So I feel like real estate marketing has gotten super stale, including mine. So I have been, we're a little bit on autopilot. Once you become successful, like I've got a great business. And so once you become successful, you feel like, oh, I don't really need to change anything. But in our market, it's becoming more challenging. Unlike New York, New Jersey, where it's a seller's market, we have moved into a buyer's market. And with that, listings are sitting for longer. And I feel like now is the time for me to step it up and do more than what other agents do around the area. So this year, I'm really focused on leveling up all of my marketing activities.
Okay, excellent. All right. And looking positively towards a growth this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'll still have a great year, but our area is challenging right now. It's a different real estate market than it was a year ago. So, it's taking longer to get deals done, longer to hold them together. It's taking a lot more work. But my philosophy is when others are struggling, go big.
Love it. Great way to end the note, to end the interview. And it's like that's the kind of tip I look for. And you're spot on, right? Especially, having marketed, for Fortune 500 companies for longer than I'd like to say. It's the ones that when times are bad, right? When you're having those downturns, whether it's the economy, could be a lot of different things.
Sure.
The ones that stay the course and even accelerate what they were doing, they're the ones that come out on top.
Well, and that's a great point. When I first started, I hired a coach. I didn't even have anything to be coached on, right? So, but I invested in that just to give me the structure and know-how. And then during COVID, when it was just dead, I decided to invest in TV commercials. So I feel like I've moved into the new wave of I'm ready to mix it up a little bit.
That's awesome. I love that, right? And that's what you should be doing. You have to try different things and get out of your comfort zone. And that's beautiful. It's a great, great story. And, love hearing when people reach out and try different things in marketing and, see what works for you, especially someone like you that understands search and you've built it from, the ground up. It's really a perfect foundation.
Well, thank you.
All right. So thank you so much. And please, so follow Gwinn on social media, follow Agent Moves as well, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And until next time, Gwinn, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Michael.